What's up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtics source here on this Thursday night, fresh off of a 136-107 victory against the Washington Wizards. Yes, an inferior team that has really become the joke of the NBA by the way that they always finish a bottom five team, but they can't find a way to get the luck of a first overall pick because of that. And so they're sort of constantly in that, lottery position. But a win is a win, and as evident by that loss against the Jazz, these wins are still hard for this team. And so I want to take the chance, when we get the chance, to talk about positives. Jaylen Brown has been a constant positive despite the up and down season. And some of the role guys coming off the bench, or in particular Josh Minott starting as of now, have been, bright spots in this otherwise roller coaster start to the season. But starting off with just, a bounce back win after such a poor performance on Monday night, despite that missed call on Jaylen Brown, right? You really shouldn't be in that position to begin with, where a call like that matters. And so, that game was really a humbling and pretty, big learning experience for this team, in the fact that there are not going to be ever easy wins this year. The margin of error is so small with really your margin of error. I love the way Drew Carter put it on Monday night's broadcast, is sitting on the bench in Jason Tatum, right? And so in this game, the team responds with a pretty great, effort and energy level, and really focus, something that they really have not done for an entire 48 minutes of a game. There have been great moments in each game, 20 to 30 minutes in each game where they look like a fantastic team. But then there are short stints that have been deciding the game where they sort of fall apart and lose their identity. And I thought this game, was very much that. But in this case, they had that, rough start, or, rough stretch of minutes in the first half, and then they're able to recover instead of it being late or in the third quarter, where it makes it much harder to recover. But I think in this game, the sort of defensive identity was restored, right, with forcing turnovers, active hands, and being locked in on your rotation. I believe they scored 30 points off of turnovers in this game. And then on the other end, right, they don't give up many turnovers. I think that's been a constant of this team so far, and really of the, Joe Mazzulla era, where, they might not be great, shooting-wise and efficiency-wise, but they don't turn the ball over much at all. In this game, Jaylen Brown, we'll talk about him in just a second, the, franchise record that he set on just a season where he is off to a fantastic start after a little bit of a scare in the first couple games with that hamstring injury that we all thought was going to hurt, his performance to start the season. And his performance very much looks different than previous years. We're not seeing the same energy and effort. We're not seeing the same aggressiveness. I take that back on the energy. We are seeing the energy and the effort. We're not seeing the same aggressiveness and athleticism from him, but he's picking his moments and just taking what the defense gives him and just excelling in that role right now. And, we'll go into his performance, but I think we have to start with, I believe we start with Payton Pritchard and Derrick White, because these two guys, I think, are your X factors for this team. Because you have Jaylen Brown playing at a All-NBA level. You have guys coming off the bench that are giving you short spurts, or even starting in the case of Josh Minott, but, short moments of excellence and effort and energy in making winning plays. And so you're looking for the guys in Payton Pritchard and Derrick White who are playing 30, 35 minutes a night, but haven't put multiple games together where they are playing at the level of, maybe not quite to Jaylen Brown, but playing to the level that we need them to play to give this team a chance on every night. Because Jaylen Brown can't do it by himself in terms of the raw scoring numbers. Right? And Payton Pritchard in this game had 18 points, was 7 of 12 from the field. He's top 5 in the NBA to assist to turnover ratio. And I think he was very much that spark plug in the second quarter, where the Wizards had taken like a 10-point lead, and he was able to stop that momentum in the Wizards' favor and get the game back under the Celtics' hands and find a way to, you can't let this lead, if you're the Celtics, grow to 20 to 30, because then, you have no chance of coming back. But the fact that Payton Pritchard was able to step in and end that run for the Wizards was huge in this game and really started, their, I would say, dominant second half performance. And we see Payton Pritchard, he's still struggling from 3, along with Derrick White. But he's getting more confident at attacking the paint and balancing, his playmaking and his assists with his raw shooting numbers, right? Because, he said it after the game, you just don't win with turnovers. You win by scoring, right, with points. And so what's been happening is he's been trying to rush shots, or he's trying to make one extra play, and he's realizing that it's just not going to work with the talent that he has around him and the all-NBA defenders that he's going up against now that he's in that starting role. And so I've loved the way Payton Pritchard has gotten into the paint and is then able to find a much easier pass to make because the defense has rotated or has sort of collapsed on him trying to defend his, layups and his sort of sneaky, very quick moves in the paint. He's going to struggle against going up against bigger guys and centers, as he is, a 6 foot guard. But what he lacks in that, he's able to pick up in his just maneuverability. He's able to sneak through little gaps where other players that are bigger than him just can't. And then Derrick White, right? His stat line continues to be rough from 3, but he scores 12 points, has 8 assists, 0 turnovers, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and is a plus 22. I think he was a team high plus 22. That shooting, I fully expect it to come around at some point. I just think it's gonna, it's taken longer than expected. I'm not sure why. I know why he's struggling, but I'm not sure why it's taking him so long to figure it out. But he's doing all the other things perfectly, right? 8 assists. He realizes he's not scoring well, and so you can't just be a liability out there. You have to find ways to get guys involved. And he's always going to be guarded, right? They're not going to just leave him open just because he's missing shots or whatever. And so he's able to take his, not really momentum, but the gravity that he has and turn it into making plays for others, right? Transitioning from, really a 4th option last year to a number 2 option this year is, taking a toll on him. And, as I just said, I wouldn't say he's not ready, but he hasn't found the sweet spot of that role scoring-wise. And so he's making the use of his time out there where he's playing, 35 minutes a night. And so he's playing most of the game. And therefore, he has to continue to take shots that are open. I'm not saying don't shoot at all, but continue to rack up assists, rack up playmaking, use his gravity that he has to get some of the guys that are not on his level open for shots. Right? And the defense is still elite while his shots aren't falling. Right? And, from Joe Mazzulla's view, he's learning how to sort of, quote, dim the lights and be a bigger star, which is his words, which, I agree with. I don't think Derrick White, despite in previous years, people saying, and, myself included, saying, I want him to be an all-star, I just don't think that's his role. He is a playmaker first before a scorer. And I don't think that identity is ever going to go away from him. But I think we should move on. I want to save Jaylen Brown for last. So I'm going to continue to go through some of the role players on this team. Two guys here that are not Payton Pritchard and Derrick White, or at least not on their level. One of them has emerged as, one of the best players on this team. Another one is a guy that hasn't had much run in the last couple of years. He had a bigger run tonight, and I thought he made fantastic use of it. But first, Josh Minott. These last couple of games, he has started every game, and I think he has proved to this team and to everyone that he should be that starter, right? I think that fourth spot, right? I think the four other positions are pretty locked up on any given night, but that fourth spot, Joe Mazzulla's been, rotating guys, throwing guys, different guys in each and every night. But it seems like Josh Minott is, for at least the time being and for the foreseeable future, going to be that fourth starter. And he has his best game of his career against the Wizards. 21 points, 5 rebounds, 3 of 6 from 3, making some unbelievable above-the-rim plays from lobs, from Brown, from White, some baseline cuts where he gets a little bounce pass that he's able to go up and dunk. I think he had a game, not in this game, but last game against the Jazz, he had a put-back dunk where one-handed sort of windmill grabs the rebound off of the rim and throws it back down on a defender's head. So just in a sense of athleticism that we really haven't seen from anyone on this team in quite a while. And, that's how other teams are playing right now. You look at the Rockets. Yes, they have the height and size, but they have a guy in Amen Thompson who is, arguably the best athlete in the league. And, you're not going to have... Josh Minott is nowhere near the level of athleticism that Amen Thompson does, although I do think he's a better shooter, at least from the perimeter, than Amen Thompson is. But just to have a guy that is, just a little bit more athletic than some of, the other guys around the league can make a huge play or a huge difference when you just need a play to be made, when you just need an offensive rebound, something that, it's hard for smaller guys like White, Prichard, and even Brown to an extent. And rebounding's never really been Brown's thing, and he has to continue to get better at it, especially because Jason Tatum, who did most of the rebounding last year, isn't here. But a guy like Josh Minott who can just, crash from the corner and just give your team a second opportunity, or on the defensive end, take away a second opportunity for a guy, can, save a game for you. Because, as I said, the margins of error on this team are so slim that one play like that could make a difference in the game. All right, Jordan Walsh, and then we'll go to Jaylen Brown. And then, actually, I got one more person to talk about, which is Neemias Queta. Because... I'll leave him for later. Jordan Walsh, the box score is not going to say anything. He had 7 points, 7 rebounds, was a plus 27, so I guess he wasn't quite the, Josh Minott wasn't the team high in net rating. But Jordan Walsh, like Josh Minott, like Payton Pritchard, just a momentum changer, right? He sparks, along with Prichard, that second quarter run with his hustle, with his rebounding, right? Really an overall theme coming off the bench and has been for many years is just stay ready and be professional despite limited minutes. A guy like Jordan Walsh hasn't gotten much run over the last many years. And quite frankly, some other guys that are new this year have leapfrogged him in the depth chart for this team. But people forget that Jordan Walsh is very similar in a Josh Minott, where he is just an athletic guy that can just make plays on both ends of the floor. And it's just nice to see that you have guys that, maybe they're not the best shooters, maybe they, are not the best defenders, but if you can have one of them out there at all times, a guy like Josh Minott, a guy like Jordan Walsh, just for the athleticism that they bring, a Ugo Gonzalez, an effort, right? Guys like that can just make one play here or there and are not, such a big liability on one end or another of the floor, that just having a guy out there can spark any sort of momentum that you can get is so critical for this team right now. I can't stress it enough how much you just need a guy to just make a winning play here or there. But Neemias Queta, 15 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, one of his best games of his career as well. Rim protection was there. He was disciplined on pick and roll. He wasn't chasing guys on the perimeter. He was staying locked in, defending, the centers, defending guards in the paint. And then when guys would throw up a shot, he was ready to box out and not out of position. Queta, he's gone from being the fourth center to the first center. Yet he's going to have ups and downs every single night. But it's nice to see that he can build on some of his positioning struggles that he's had. He was, I think, the reason that the Jazz lost, or the Celtics lost that game against the Jazz. The offensive rebound that he gave up for that last bucket from the Jazz, right? If he had been in good positioning, he could have secured that rebound and given the Celtics a chance to go down and score on the other end. But, he took advantage of pretty weak bigs on the other end for the Wizards, right? And he's emerging as, I wouldn't say a trustful, but, a reliable rotation big for this team. And there isn't really anybody else behind him because Luka Garza has not been great at all this season. And so, he's really playing. I don't know how many minutes a night he's playing, but whenever they go with a true traditional center, he's the guy they're going with. Because Garza is way down there. I think this, him and Josh Minott both came over from the Wolves, and I think Luka Garza played a little bit more last season than Josh Minott, but they just don't look anywhere the same or even on the same level, right? I think part of the reason is Josh Minott is, more of that, I wouldn't say guard, but that forward position that can score, whereas Luka Garza just can't score at all. And so, he's been a liability on the offensive end, making it really hard for guys like Derrick White to get open shots. And then, his defense hasn't been a huge problem, but the fact that Queta can be serviceable in pick and roll offense and lob threats, and then also be better on the defensive end overall than Luka Garza, just makes him a much better option at this point. All right, before we wrap up, we got to talk about Jaylen Brown, because he had arguably his best game of his career. Maybe not career, but definitely set a franchise record tonight with 35 points, 13 of 21 on field goals, 7 of 9 from the line. So super efficient. 2 of 4 from 3. so he wasn't, jacking up threes like we saw in the Jazz game, where I think he went 0 of 9, something like that, maybe 1 of 9. But he got to his mid-range, his best, shot that he has. Very much a hard shot, tough shot for most guys in the league, but he's made it, his bread and butter. Just one turnover, a plus 11, and he does this all in 26 minutes. So not only does he go in, do his job, and get out, which keeps him rested, especially because you're going to need him for every game this season, right? I think in order for this team to have a playoff chance, he has to play 70 games this season. And so, as much rest as you can give him on a night where you should be giving him rest and you should be dominating a team, it's great that he can, carry this team to a victory and then able to sit out in the fourth quarter. Right? He's the only Celtics in double figures for really much of the entire game before Josh Minott climbs in there. Right? His leadership, just his, pace, his, him trusting his teammates, taking the smarter shots, like I said before, right? Not chucking up threes, and sometimes you have to do that when, you just can't get anything going and you're at the end of a shot clock or something like that and you just need to take a rough shot. But I really love his just mentorship, him guiding younger players like Minott and like Jordan Walsh, right? I think he's been really valuable to Josh Minott's success here, because of his ability to just, I wouldn't say get him open, but find ways to, find Josh on a cut or on a lob to the rim, something that, other guys, as I've said, are not capable of doing, right? A White is not going to be catching a lob or a Prichard from Jaylen Brown. So his skill set and his height just brings something that no other guys have on this team. And so Jaylen Brown has made the most out of that. And health is the key, right? Jaylen Brown said it himself. He wants to play as many games as possible. I said it a couple seconds ago, where he has to play 70 games to give this team a chance, right? And he's not relying on his athleticism. He's just playing like a veteran All-NBA player, right? We look at like a guy like LeBron James, and obviously, yeah, he's injured right now. But last season, right, he wasn't going, 100% full effort, full sprint all the time, because you just can't do that as a player when you get older. And LeBron's an exception. But there are moments where you do turn that on, and you do, for a period or for a play, save that energy so that you can go all out when you need to. And I think Jaylen Brown's doing that. Right? He's picking his moments when he wants to be aggressive to the rim, or, sprint full court, or chase down a block. Stuff like that. And it's just great to see that he isn't forcing the ball, and he's taking his time. He's not turning it over. Stuff that you need your leader to do. But, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. Once again, the Celtics win 136-107. They improved to 4-5 on the season. And they now play this mini series against the Orlando Magic, both in Orlando. Friday night's game is an NBA Cup game. I'm actually going to do a live play-by-play commentary for the game. So you can tune into that on Friday. I believe we're starting around 7:15 for a 7:30 game. So that'll be fun. And then after the game, we'll do our normal live post-game show separate from the stream or the live game stream. But Orlando's an interesting team in the fact that, they have Desmond Bane coming in, and Desmond Bane, he hasn't been great to start the season, and their offense, last year was pretty, horrific, and really what cost them, I think, a higher seed in the East, and probably their round one loss to the Celtics was their just lack of offense, but their defense continues to be strong, and that worries me about the Celtics, or when they play the Celtics, because You know, the Celtics might be better on the defensive end against a team like the Magic, but offense is not great right now for the Celtics with Derrick White and Payton Pritchard struggling shooting wise, and I'm worried if them going up against a great top 10 team defensively in the Orlando Magic, is that going to hurt them? But we will see. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. Follow on social media, and until next time, go Celtics.